So, into the draft. So we do see from the side of Qlash, Midnight again, they want to ban away this Kha'Zix. They really don't want to give that to Potato Claws. It's been a quite staple ban throughout against Potato Claws. Again, going with this Pantheon ban, they might just opt into banning the Jarvan again here. Probably Jarvan Milio. I don't think there's anything too wrong with their bans. But maybe I would have liked to see an Ahri ban instead of Pantheon, especially considering the Ahri has such high priority due to the fact that kind of most teams are playing very heavily around their jungle. So we do see a Wukong ban away as well. A lot of bans going inside the jungle. So you do have Delicate as well, who is very comfortable with kind of being the carry. So, the Jarvan ban again, like I said, very, very common to come through. So, the Cassia, there's no way they get a Cassia B1. Like, I think they're just taunting a little bit here. We see, Nico, she is the new champion. They're not going to go with it though. Going with the Ahri is just a safer bet. Again, this is opting in to say, hey, we want to play very heavily with our jungle and just kind of roam around as much as possible to do that. So we do see that come in here. I wonder if we're going to get the Maokai come through again, and I hope the Jhin doesn't come through. Their classic 1-2 was Jhin Mao. We do get the Vi come through instead, which not amazing into the Ahri so far, which is showing, because again, if you ult Ahri and she ults away, you're going to put kind of Vi in a very dangerous position. But hopefully I would like to see something other than the Jhin come through, but not going to happen. We're going to go with the Jhin again. We do have R5 on the side of Sea Pandas though, so hopefully they do pick that kind of AD top here. Instead, they are kind of playing with our heartstrings a little bit by hovering the Rengar. Again, very, very strong pick right now, but very, very difficult to actually orchestrate and play properly. And so they're not going to come through with it. It's the case of the Nautilus again. So, again, Nautilus can be multi-flexed, but Blank, obviously, last game said that they don't tend to go with that, so it's probably just going to go into support again. It is good into the Jhin, but we do see them kind of running back a somewhat similar draft, so this isn't the worst, because this is kind of showing that these are the picks that they have the most experience on, especially within scrims, so not bad to kind of run the same drafts back, especially considering there were some very clear opportunities for them to play in game 1. So we'll see what they decide to go with here. So in terms of bans, maybe you just look to try and get rid of a few ADCs, but the Sejuani ban is very large, especially they've got the Olaf, they've got the Nautilus, that gives a lot of value. Maybe they get rid of the Senna just because they've shown that they want the Olaf, they want to potentially go with the Senna again, just to kind of give him those shields and heals throughout those fights. So we'll see if that's kind of what they decide they want to go with. But on the side of Qlash Midnight, the Yone banned away, so they are looking to target top a little bit here. We see the Yone banned away, which was a pick that Sea Pandas did play yesterday. So yeah, we'll see what they go with here. Other bans, like Olaf is kind of rough to kind of play into top, because he does have a lot of value on a lot of champs. Maybe you go with something like the Kennen and look to maybe try and peel him away early. You're not going to be able to lock him down with the Kennen ult, but if you can lock down the rest of Olaf's team, then that can sometimes actually give you the ability to focus the Olaf out early and do quite a lot of damage to him. But we do see the Karma come out. Multi-way flex again on that. R4 is quite valuable because you can take R4 Karma and then flex it either top or support, which would have been really good. So very good bans from the side of Qlash Midnight, actually. It shows that they've chosen. So we do have the Garen come through, so that does provide a little bit more value due to the fact that he can do that. that extra damage, and you do get that execute. So maybe if they do choose to use the Garen ultimate alongside the Jhin 4th shot and the Gale Force, that's potentially what that answer is to deal with this Olaf here. But yeah, so we do see the Xin Zhao come out now. Xin Zhao is kind of a classic pick into kind of long range ADs like the Jhin, like the Jinx. But I mean, here it's mainly being taken for a very heavy skirmish, and again, we do see that Senna come out like predicted. Let's see what that R5 kind of response is. R5 support is incredibly good, and I really do like this R5 support potential. I think R5 support is something that is very kind of undervalued in competitive due to the fact that you can use it to potentially win that 3v3, which this is probably what they're going to look towards going for. So the Rakan does opt a lot more into roaming with the Vi, so we're probably going to see a lot of roams from the Rakan. What I do want to see here is Jhin maybe given a bit of time in bot lane alone, so that he can just kind of farm up safely and just soak waves as soon as they get pushed in. So yeah, that's what maybe I'm looking for. So in terms of this kind of comp now, Qlash did show that they were very, very comfortable on this Olaf with the Senna peeling as well, and they do have an extremely, extremely good 2v2. The Vi Cassio doesn't do quite the same thing as the Maokai did, because you can't really lock inside the grounding as easily, but what you can do is you can use Vi ult, and then as long as Cassio is in a position to walk up, she can then get her miasma down on the area, and that can stop people from, say, flashing out of the Vi's ult. If it lands, what you look to do usually though is, as the Vi's ult is coming through, that's when you look to get your mobility off to get away. So we'll see kind of where they want to go to from there. Again, pretty both teams showing that they're quite comfortable with the kind of comps that they decided to go with. Let's have a little bit more of a look into draft. It would be nice if they left the draft up for a little bit longer here, but again, so overall you have quite a lot more damage from the side of Sea Pandas now, and you have quite a large amount of execute damage. Their comp does look to kind of really get those big wombo fights off, and these are both kind of two fairly team fight orientated comps. Obviously Olaf can look to have a lot of pressure in a side lane, but overall what you're really looking for is to get that Olaf ahead early, which you could do quite comfortably. But if I'm Xin Zhao in this game though, I'm extremely happy. He has 3 lanes that he can potentially play through. I mean, Garen could be a little bit harder to actually play through due to the fact that he does have a large amount of tenacity and that movement speed buff also, but overall we could see a lot of rotations coming from the support of Sea Pandas. If she does manage to get some rotations and potentially get this Cassio ahead with the Vi, then that's actually going to be really big. So yeah, so we'll wait on the delay. But so I do think that this does very heavily this is a much better comp from the side of Sea Pandas. They're not opting into this triple AP top side, and the Vi is going to be able to do quite consistent damage. You are also in a position now where the Cassio is the sole AP damage, which is okay due to the fact that Cassio can output massive amounts of damage. So we are potentially going to be looking for that to come through. But again, this Rakan to potentially lock everybody down is going to be huge value. So we do see this come through. I'm excited to see how they vary their gameplay from this. I wonder if we're going to get some early pressure on bot side again, especially now that they have this Rakan, who can be a value with W. Again, overall, what we could what I would like to see potentially here is the Cassio just get the ability to farm to that Rod of Ages and then just kind of look to start taking over the game. Again, you do have Nautilus, Olaf and Xin Zhao that want to be jumping in. Cassio can lock them all down with her ultimate besides the Olaf though, so we'll see what she decides to do here. I am very surprised that they allowed the Olaf to go through draft though, considering how comfortable Senna was on it last game. Usually if a player shows that they're this comfortable and that she really wants to opt into the Olaf, and you want a comp with this kind of anti-engage, that's big. One of the things that I do see as an issue with Sea Panda's draft, though, slightly, is Acacio kind of wants the enemies to kind of get on top of her and do a lot, but the Vi and the Rakan want to jump in. So if we're looking at kind of overall cohesion with the kind of team fighting, what we'll probably see here is the Rakan and the Vi kind of get in, do a lot, and then you'll probably see them peel out slowly, with the Casio then being able to get a big ultimate off and potentially lock down multiple people. So on the side of Qlash Midnight, the way they want to be playing the fight is they, again, want to really slow fight until they do manage to just get that full-on engage from the Olaf and the Xin Zhao. Xin can ult to dodge the Jin's fourth shot, but one thing that you can do with Jin also is when your fourth shot is prepared, you can Gale Force auto into the Xin Zhao's R, and that will do a significant amount of damage to him. So we will see that potentially come through, but game is starting now. Let's see what they decide to do from here. So they're just hopping into a standard 5-point. This is okay considering both teams have the ability to get a lot of pressure down. So we are opting for this 5-stack, just to kind of stop anybody doing anything early, especially when both teams have the potential to. You know, you have a Nautilus who's great in an invade, you have a Rakan who can be great in an invade. Obviously the rest of the teams on both sides aren't too great. Obviously Xin Zhao only really gets E, Ari doesn't really want to take Charm early, and Olaf is pretty good in an invade also though. And for the side of Sea Pandas, you have Garen, who's just going to have Q. Casio is not going to really have anything that can contribute to an invade either, and Rakan does have W, but that's kind of it. Vi does kind of want to look to start with W again, but we do see a late invade come through for the side of Qlash here. They do manage to spot it early though, and Vi just opts to go straight into her bot side. So one of the kind of things with this situation though that is very telling is what Qlash is saying here with this late invade is they want to force Vi out, but they want to try and play around splitting the map here for the top side so that Olaf has a lot more jungle pressure in this early game. So I think that's what we are seeing here. Xin does opt to go into the WE, not too bad. Obviously Q gives you the E up quicker because Q reduces the overall cooldowns of your abilities, but Vi deciding to just go for the 3 camp in bot side. Obviously there is a ward on the Xin Zhao's red, so you know, good coordination with what they want to do. So we'll see where they decide to go from there now. In terms of overall kind of lane states, I mean, it's going to be a little bit sleeper inside of bot lane. I mean, Rakan and Nautilus do have opportunities to engage, but what ends up happening is it's a case of who engages first usually kind of loses, because if the Nautilus engages on the Jhin, then Rakan can engage on the Senna, and then they just kind of end up trading HP quite equally. But Jhin kind of wants to just slowly get those fourth shots off. A W from the Senna into the Nautilus hook is huge, but as you can see here, unfortunately the observers moved away from that, but you can see in the bot lane how that kind of works. But Potato Claws getting caught by Delicate. Now one of the things that is very unfortunate here is when you are playing Xin Zhao, you want to basically get your mark on your W, but then you want to wait for the flash until you use E, which we'll go over in the VOD, but didn't really happen here, which was unfortunate. But yeah. Very heavy skirmish coming through so far, so Nautilus opting into the farming as well. The unfortunate thing, like I said in game 1, that actually happens with Nautilus farming is as Nautilus. You want to be constantly walking up and pressuring the lane as much as possible. And the good thing about Senna Nautilus, though, is Senna can, like we saw in that first fight, land the W, which can then lead to the Naut hook. The issue with that is in this lane state, you do have that Rakan that Rakan doesn't mind if he's the first person to engage in some situations, or if he is there to engage after. So that's kind of one of the issues we have. Obviously, Jin, if he does have multiple shots, can do a lot with that. But again, Potato Claw is getting caught yet again. Garen can move just for the fact that the Olaf isn't there. But Ari is already moving up. And this is kind of where this Ari value comes in more so than most. Because again, once she does land this... Well, once she does kind of push that lane out and move, she has the ability to aid her jungler as much as possible. And when you have something like the Xin Zhao that can be incredibly aggressive, that's really where it shines. So we do see, again, Nautilus farming fairly well inside of bot lane. Going good so far. We do have a slight advantage in terms of treats for the Vi. But we see that Vi is looking, but Xin Zhao is predicting that she will be here. Vi coming in later, so this is a really, really bad fight for the side of C. They don't have the damage to actually do much, especially when you're playing into a Olaf and a Xin Zhao. They actually lose this 2v2 inside of the top lane early until they get their level 6. So as soon as they get level 6, they can actually 100 to 0 Xin Zhao quite quickly, unless he uses ultimate to knock Garen away. But if Garen manages to get the ult buffered, then it'll still go through. But overall, we do see a really good trade coming in for Stratus Panda in bot lane. She does manage to get a large amount of damage on this Nautilus right now, but running really, really low on mana. Again, Senna does have commencing stopwatch, which I think is an interesting choice. I'm very curious to see what runes she has. As Senna, one of the main runes that you do want to be going with is the approach velocity, because you land the Q and then approach velocity gives you the movement speed from the slow that you can run in, get your passive, and then run out quite safely. So let's have a quick look at what runes they decided to go with in this game. So the Senna does have commencing stopwatch and approach velocity, which is good. Usually I do quite like to see biscuits come through for Senna, but also boots aren't the worst when you are playing lethality Senna, because you do manage to get to your power spikes a little bit earlier and you're not as reliant on getting those Swifties early, which used to be kind of the tech on Senna so that you could get very close. But yeah, we'll see where this kind of goes to. So they are looking to slightly contest Dragon. We do have red side vision control on the Dragon currently. This is usually the window where you want to be looking to force those Dragons, but looks like they're looking more so to play towards top side and make sure that Senna gets ahead again. Obviously, she already has 1 kill up on the Garen from that earlier skirmish, so if they can allow her to snowball quite easily, then she could potentially become another massive threat. Now, the composition is different, and Olaf doesn't have the ability to be as free running into them, especially with the Garen and the Vi having a lot more kind of physical damage in this game. Just means that he can't itemize as easily into magic resist. So we'll soon see where he goes to. I mean, Olaf potentially looking to go Ravenous Hydra, first item here, which is just going to give him a massive amount of effective HP, and it gives him a huge amount of damage also, especially because you can farm it up. So again, we're seeing a nice little cross map from the side of Qlash. They're accepting that the Dragon has gone, but they're going more for the Herald. So this kind of top side play is actually something that was very, very heavily dominated by Damwon Gaming. They played very heavily for their top side and just left their bottom lane to kind of scale up and play kind of utility later on into the game. So we are kind of seeing something similar to that happen here, which is very, very interesting to come through. So again, if that's the style that your team plays. Now, one thing, I said this previously, but in the older days of League, one thing that people used to say is, oh, each region had their own playstyle, and when they came to MSI or Worlds, that region's playstyle kind of shone through, but I never really agreed with this as much. I do think regions have certain things that they favour, but I think it's more so the team's playstyle that comes through at the international tournaments, because what you end up finding in those kind of regional kind of in those kind of regional teams is they play a style that has domestically worked really, really well for them against the pool of teams that they're playing against. Now, what you do find is this is where it becomes really important for analysts to kind of scout enemy teams and kind of realize, okay, well, this is the play style that they're going with, etc. And it does become very obvious when you kind of know what you're looking for, what kind of play styles teams decide to go with. But yeah, so we're kind of seeing some of this team dynamic come through here. But again, we do have this winning 2v2 in the top side for the side of Olaf and Zinzao at the moment. And again, this Rakan does have the ability to lock them down. Now, Jin is actually lower, doesn't have as much CS in comparison to the Nautilus, which, again, Nautilus with a huge CS gap right now is actually kind of big, especially in kind of this game where they are just kind of being left on a little bit of an island bot lane. So yeah, we'll see what they decide to pull out here. We are at the 10 minutes mark, and there is a gold advantage on the side of Qlash. You're always going to somewhat get that, though, when obviously we've got that first blood kill come through, and overall they are doing a little bit more in terms of their lane states right now, especially considering Potato Claws did get invaded early. So yeah, we'd see that come through. Potato Claws has a bit more CS from lane in comparison to Delicate. She's actually a little bit behind in terms of treats. She is one treat down, but again, that assist gold really propping her up at the moment. But we do see the Roa come through for the Casio. This is going to be a huge power spike, and we do get the Everfrost for the Ari also. She is going to decide to go into that more kind of supportive build again. But yeah, we do have a Cole on its way, so that's going to be a plus 180 gold going over to the Olaf as soon as that is completed. But again, kind of Senna does have that kill advantage inside of top lane, which is pretty big. So we'll see kind of what they go with here. We have the Even Shroud come through for the Nautilus. They are looking to kind of, again, just be a little team fight heavy here. Ash of War deciding to get a little bit of a trade in top here. Not too bad, to be honest. Garen inside his spin can do quite a lot, but unfortunately, due to the itemizational choice from Senna here, she's actually like had a really good itemizational choice here by going for the Ravenous Hydra, because that's going to kind of allow her to just keep healing up and get to a point where she's so strong that these team fights are going to be super effective. Now, not entirely sure. I mean, I guess they want to unlock the Senna Nautilus to roam about, which isn't the worst. You don't really want to be dropping Herald in top for an Olaf when he is in a winning kind of position in this lane, but we do see No Chat Thanks does kind of try and catch Delicate on a ward, but unfortunately she does manage to see it. No Chat Thanks does manage to just hop out though, so yeah. So again, a much slower game. Again, one thing I have actually really liked about this tournament is it hasn't been very just kind of throw yourself at them and do whatever you can. They've been slowly kind of playing it out and playing more of a macro game, which is really nice to see, because that, like, when you play a macro game, you show more of the experience that your players have. When you have kind of less experience in competitive, you will tend to have a much lower kind of macro knowledge. A lot of your micro mechanics comes from a solo queue environment, but we do see a big fight coming through here. The Nautilus does manage to get charmed, but the Senna ult does come in, and this is the thing, Senna is in the back, allowed to do whatever she wants. We do get the Dragon come over for the Vi, but nobody is touching the Senna right now. She's just allowed to free hit and do massive amounts of damage, so this is a really big disaster for the side of C. They kind of looked to engage, and even though they did manage to get some kills, okay, Chapeau Cassio unfortunately just doesn't have the damage to be able to do that much. She doesn't have a Seraph yet, so the issue here is that Senna on this lethality spike of Dirk is just allowed to do whatever she wants, and those autos just from afar just did so much work. So Senna has been a pick that has been massively becoming popular again, due to the fact that again Yumu's really good on her, and like I said in game one, the thing that Senna has is she gets plenty of crit from her item, from her passive, so she can just look to go into the Yumus. Again, really rough fight from the side of C. Qlash just seem like they are much more prepared today for the games compared to what C are. So again, like, really good team fights from the side of Qlash. These teams battling out for a spot in the grand finals against, I mean, probably G2 Hell, to be honest. So, again, now one thing that is extremely interesting about this potential storyline is if Qlash do end up going through to the finals against G2 Hell, you have two teams with very kind of opposing playstyles from what they've shown, from what I've seen anyway. You have Qlash that are opting more towards these kind of supportive bot lane picks, kind of the same as last season in competitive. We saw a lot of these, like the Virus, the MF, the Senna, like these were all quite predominant. Well, I mean, MF not so much. I guess not many people decided to go into it, but things like the Virus were very high pick. We do see Potato Claws getting picked again, though. Really unfortunate. Stratus Panda, again, she gets picked also. Really unlucky. So Potato Claws really not having as good of a game today as she did yesterday. So the Senna does have to use a stopwatch here, but she will end up being able to heal plenty to just kill the Cassio off. So again, from Sea Pandas, we see they're very kind of they're very split in what they want to do here, which again very awkward for the side of Sea Pandas, and this gives Qlash a massive gold lead. They get another Herald. Ari manages to get a really good charm on the Rakan. One thing about the Rakan is if you go to W and you actually get charmed within it, the knockup does not go through. So this is why you see a lot of things that can counter it in bot lane. Even things like the Lux is a really big classic counter to Rakan, or anything that can really CC, because again you CC him out of that W and it becomes really rough. So this is why you see this picked quite often. But again, Senna finishing the support quest now. Nautilus with the Even Shroud. This is becoming a much heavier stomp this game than the last one. Let's see how Qlash decide to actually end this game out now, though. So, if I am the side of Sea Pandas right now, what I want to be looking for is I want to lock down objectives so that they have to walk into the Cassio. If they have to walk into the Cassio and she can get a really good ultimate, besides for the Olaf, she can lock down a massive amount of the enemy team, which can then allow the Vi to be a secondary engage, or the Rakan to be a secondary engage. Now, like I said at the start, the Rakan pick is really big, but I think overall Qlash are just on their A game a lot more today. From what it seems, they're a lot more cohesive as a team with what they want to do, and it's less about just kind of throwing everything at them and kind of hoping for the best. So again, very big. Oh, another. I look away for 2 seconds and there's another really big fight going. Again, we see the Senna is just in the back line, allowed to do absolutely everything. Like, I just don't feel like C have... They have the answers for Senna, but they just don't have the advantage to be able to pull that off. So, overall a little bit rough. Let's have a look at... Okay. So again, looking to just quickly finish this out. The next game wasn't meant to be until 4 BST, but by the way this is looking, it's going to actually be also over around the 3 PM mark. I mean, Qlash coming in and showing that they want to win today, and one of the big things about today with this kind of format that is being run is you end up in a position where yesterday you have the first round and that's it, so you played the one best of 3 and then that put you into the next one. But today what we're actually going to see is we're going to have this second round that'll take place, and then that will go into the grand finals. So having such a dominant win like this actually allows you to get a huge boost of momentum that will actually carry you through into the grand final. So for Qlash right here, they should be feeling very, very confident about their ability to go into the grand finals with a win like this. I do think that one of the big issues that we have seen from Sea is they're very, very locked into this kind of play style. So let's have a look what Stratus Panda's main champs are. So this is the thing, Stratus Panda does play other picks as well. We see things like the MF, the Ezreal, the Karthus, the Caitlyn, all of these coming out in their solo queue, even things like the Kog'Maw. So the fact that they have been put on Jhin consistently throughout is quite a shame, really. I think every single game that Stratus Panda has had, she has been on Jhin every single game. So again, maybe a bit of an issue with champ pools, or maybe it's down to confidence, but overall game's looking very, very... Again, Potato Claws getting caught, having to flash away. The Rakan does get a really good engage though, and this is actually one of the few opportunities that they do have from the side of Sea. This is actually looking really good. They're very split from the side of Qlash. They did decide to just continue on to the Baron, and the Senna didn't actually get the opportunities that she has in previous team fights in order to just consistently be getting these auto attacks down and just kind of free firing from the back. So this was actually a really big blunder for the side of Qlash, and they do end up getting some hefty bounties over to some of their carries. So do I think that's going to change the game too much? I don't think so. I mean, Qlash is still roughly 10k gold advantage over the side of Sea right now, but it's something, it's a start, and that's what really matters. So again, they're just looking to force this once again, but they don't have control of the mid lane for prio here. Obviously, the side of Sea don't have tier 1 in mid right now, which just shows how far behind they are. So let's see what they decide to do. Ahri trying to zone away the Cassio from the back, but it doesn't look like they're going to have enough opportunities to get on top of them. They're not going to look to force a fight. The Vi is just going to look to get over the wall and maybe try a steal. If she can maybe combine it with Jin's fourth shot, may have potential, but the side of Qlash decide they just want to look to turn and try and capture Ash of War from there. We do manage to get the Olaf throwing. Oh, that Q did just about manage to land, and Rakan looking very dangerous. Okay, Rakan looked for the engage to try and save the Garen, which she did manage to save the Garen, but very awkward overall. And again, Qlash just kind of capitalizing on it. They do manage to get this Rakan, which means they now get vision control of the area due to the fact of a massive lack of vision control. Now there is a control ward sat in that wall though, but Delica just looking to... Okay, Potato Claws just really getting caught over and over, and now we're going to see Senna's just going to have the ability to just continuously run down doing auto after auto. So very, very unlucky. At this point, Sea are just so far behind in terms of gold. This is going to lead into a Baron, and that's going to lead into the game. What I would like to see here is Ahri just going quickly farm that mid wave, but doesn't really look like she's going to go and do it, and they're just going to instantly turn on Baron. Control ward is still there. Nautilus is going to go and clear it quickly, but again, free Baron for the side of Qlash here, and this gold advantage is just growing more and more and more. So again, Ahri has actually opted into the Horizon Focus, which is really good. It procs on her E, so she's going to get that damage amplification on that E. We do see a Stormraiser come in for the Senna. Really good itemizational choice there due to the fact that Senna's movement speed is already kind of high, and she wants to be able to kind of maneuver through these fights as much as possible. So again, nice itemizational decision here. Again, the gold is kind of skewed due to the fact that Senna only has a little bit more, but she was farming Senna early. But if we look at the support, we can see that 2k gold advantage for the side of Nautilus, since he was the one farming this game. Nautilus does manage to sniff them out. Her spidey senses were tingling, and she does manage to find them. They do use quite a lot on this Olaf, though. Nautilus ult down, and this does look like a fairly good fight for the side of Sea initially, but it doesn't really matter because, again, if they can't get on top of the Senna and do anything, then she's just going to kill the entire team here. As you can see, Senna, again, they do manage to kind of get the Olaf down here, but it just doesn't matter. They have no real way of dealing with the Senna in this game, and she's just doing massive. She's still full HP. They have Baron just looking to run down mid now and potentially try and get this inhibitor. So yeah, overall, very, very difficult for the side of C to do much when this Senna is just allowed to do whatever she wants throughout the fights. Ari as well, very, very big. Difficult to lock her down also, so yeah, at this point it becomes, oh, actually, I didn't actually see that. Observers weren't looking, but Jin managed to get a solo kill on the Senna, which is again another really, really big bounty over to them. This is very telling though, because what this is showing is that Qlash are looking a bit shaky. They do, there is a little bit of a chink in that armor. They don't have this kind of like later game lockdown as much as they do their early games. So this is, if I am either G2 Hell or Big, what I'm looking for in this kind of game now is I'm looking to kind of see where, so we have their playstyle locked down, right? Qlash are looking for the more supportive bot lane, although they might switch it up in the grand finals and go for a more aggressive bot lane, but at the moment what they're showing is that they do like these supportive bots, and yeah, they're just looking to kind of scale it out. Now they have a massive top side though, and they haven't really died all that much really. Rakan does manage to get something here, but Senna W does manage to lock them down. Nautilus gets hopped over by the blast cone, but Senna can do damage from afar, gets that ult down, and she is able to just keep free hitting over the wall quite easily. Another good W coming through, and it's just looking really, really doomed for the side of C right now. There's not really much they can do at all. A lot of them drop very, very low. Inhibitor is exposed in mid lane. They're going to get this tier 2 for another 550 gold, and they're just going to look to continue the snowball. At this point, Senna gets so many stacks just passively, especially considering she doesn't really need to farm as much, but yeah, this is becoming very scary. I'm very intrigued to see how many stacks she is currently on. Unfortunately, she did get that shut down a little bit earlier, which again kind of shuts it down. It kind of puts her a little bit behind, but it doesn't matter too much. She's still super, super ahead, but overall, it's kind of like a ticking time bomb. The Senna is so powerful that she's just going to continuously be scaling throughout, and even though I do think C fixed their draft issues compared to game 1, I think the execution of said draft just really wasn't as good as Qlash here, and now you end up in this really kind of awkward position where C, even though they have had some glimmers of hope, and while I still want to believe that this game is winnable for the side of C, it's looking very, very rough considering, again, how far ahead this Senna is. So again, we're just getting resets in. So, really, really dominant game from the side of Qlash. I think one of the big things that we need to be looking for in the final game when Qlash goes through is we need to find ways to abusing. Now, like I said previously, I think this would be probably the best timeline for a finals fight, is because you have these two kind of varying playstyles. On one side of G2 Hell, which I do think have the advantage and are probably the ones that are going to meet Qlash in the finals, you have this very aggressive hypercarry ADC in Caltis, but then on the side of Qlash you've got this really big kind of top side kind of compositional kind of play, which, you know, though it will become a case of who can play the weak side better, which is always very interesting because in things like solo queue, you're often trying to put yourself into a position where you're always kind of strong side, either through you playing very well mechanically or through getting jungle attention. Whereas in competitive, you do get forced into more positions where, as a weak side, kind of composition, you are very, very heavily forced into, okay, Ashavor does get caught here, has to use a flash very early. Zin does use the E just to get the knockup, flash E, and the Senna is just doing so much damage at this point, it's really difficult. Senna is actually going to be able to just run down the Jhin though, and the Jhin just really can't do anything against this Olaf. As soon as that fourth shot is gone, there's not really much damage, you know, she can do on him at all. They do look to peel back a little bit, and they do have Cassiopeia ult available, but even the heals out of the center at this point are so obnoxious that it's very, very difficult for them to really, really do that much. Now, hopefully the observers soon have a look over the Senna just so we can see the amount of stacks. Eventually Senna will end up getting to 100% crit chance purely through her stacks alone. Obviously once you start breaking that kind of 50% crit mark, that's when you start doing a large amount of damage, but they're looking to just potentially bait a Baron. Unfortunately they do manage to use their blue ward here to spot them, but again, why are they walking up? Really unfortunate from the Cassio. Cassio should never be the person that's kind of up front, and as we can see here, Senna with Stormrazor, she's just doing so much. Unfortunately, Jhin does a lot as well, but has to use Flash to get away, and now it's Ahri's turn to just do a ton of damage, and this is unfortunately going to be the game. The Vi does manage to get the Ahri in the back though, but it's just too little too late. The Vi needs to go and cut the wave really, really hard here if she's going to potentially look to save this game, but they do have a wave in top as well. Luckily she does manage to cut the wave, which is really, really good. But this is going to be 2 inhibitors over for the side of Qlash, which top and mid inhibitor is actually fairly good, because now we're going to be in a position where the Senna is, well, they can all just run through bot lane now. They don't really have to go for the Baron anymore, because by having 2 of these inhibitors, it's really, really big. Maybe they're going to get this dragon, but Vi doesn't do it all that quick, and she is out of mana. Qiyana, again, she's just kind of being a nuisance at this point, just because she's never going to be able to kill Vi. That flash was very brave, though. Very interesting. But we see the TP coming in. Now, this could be a potential, well, I guess, so, it's just awkward. Ahri deciding to use her TP there when the rest of the team want to get resets is very, very awkward. It's not really what you want to go with. One thing that you want to be doing, and we'll go over this in the VOD review as well, is you're more so looking to send Ahri into the bot lane to get pressure on this final inhibitor while the rest of your team do Baron, and then Ahri can just TP at a later point and shut them down on that kind of potential Baron siege. But again, there is a huge wave in bot lane that is pushing into the tower, but nobody's there to pressure it. They're just going to go for the Baron though. But the side of C do know that they are on this, because they did have some blue wards, but they cleared out vision, and now they are just looking to bait. Okay, really, really good Q from Vi there to avoid getting CC'd by the Senna W. If she did get landed by that Senna W there, it just opens you up into the Nautilus hook, Nautilus R, and then you just get instantly killed into Baron, into end. So that Q, even though it seemed very small, was actually really, really game changing. But Ash of War caught again by the Ahri Charm. Even the W was not enough. Senna's ult from the back, and as you can see again, Senna is just having an absolute whale of a time. She just gets to completely free hit this entire time. The only damage she's taking is from just kind of splash damage, and she's just allowed to really do whatever she wants. Cassio did use her ultimate there as well, and again we see Strats Panda using this Jhin ult for no real reason. You don't want to be using it just in situations like that when nobody is low. You want to be using it when the Baron is up, so that you can potentially either get vision of the Baron or potentially steal it with a fourth shot to see if you can outsmite. But unfortunately, this is just going to end up with Qlash getting the Baron really, really quickly, and now this is looking very doomed for C due to the fact that they are playing into a Baron with 2 inhibs down, and, you know, the last inhib is exposed. If now Qlash does actually manage to get their waves synchronized, it's going to be really, really big. So as we can see, mid and top are somewhat synchronized right now, but we have nobody to actually buff them currently. The mid wave will always kind of go sooner due to the lane being shorter. There's only a total of 44 seconds from Nexus to Nexus inside of mid lane, whereas on the side lanes you'll have a full 64 seconds. So it means that mid lane is where you really want to be. They just sent Olaf here. Does use his ultimate to just get out, but again, it doesn't matter how long Olaf survives without... One thing you want to be doing with Olaf is she can survive for a massive amount of time, but she does want to look for the rest of the team to be able to do damage, and they finally rotate. Potato Claw's really not getting as good of a game off today as she did yesterday, but overall, I mean, I think Qlash has played this really well. We get another charm. Ahri's charms, like Lilianne's kind of charms this game, have been very, very important for kind of these kind of fights now. Okay, notice with the TP coming in and does manage to grab the Jhin. Stratus Panda can't really do much there, and that will be the win. So if I'm G2 Hell coming into finals against Qlash here, it does show that Qlash do play kind of messy later on into the game, and their overall late game macro not as good as their early game. So let's quickly throw that to a